everybody, my name is Robert. I work in the mobile applications team here at LeanSwift, and in this video I want to give you a demo of our inventory count app. First, before we start, a couple of words about the intended use of this application. So we're assuming with this app that somebody in the office, or at least somebody other than the person that is physically performing the count of the inventory, in M3 has created the inventory count and also performed the selection of the balance IDs that should be counted. So be this the large year-end or mid-year or whatever it might be count, or a smaller cycle count for a limited area of the warehouse. So that is one step that's been performed, and this app picks up when a user is assigned one of these inventory numbers that you can see in the list on the first screen here, and now we'll grab his presumably iPad, walk out into the warehouse, and start counting the inventory. So that's the premise for this app. Then I also wanted to show you two settings, or actually a setting and a filter within the application. If you look in the upper right hand corner there, we've got a little settings cog. The very first time that a user launches this application, they'll be prompted straight into this, then to select should the actual on-hand balance from M3 be proposed as the quantity counted on each line. We would of course default this to no, as well as what balance should we compare with, the balance at request creation, current balance, or the balance on the reporting date. So the same two key parameters that we have within M3. Then I also wanted to show you the filter here under the magnifying glass. So we've got warehouse and facility. We default these in from the user's configuration in M3. Of course, it's possible to just tap on this and select a different warehouse or a different facility, provided that the user has the appropriate authority in the warehouse and facility. Next, we have a status filter, and we've designed this as a simple slider. So say I can just drag my finger there, and now I'm going to limit that list to only show me statuses between 50 and 51. For example, and we also have a simple description then of what does that M3 status mean. But I'm going to keep this at the full range between ready and completed. And then finally at the bottom we have the sorting of this list. That can be by status, by date, or by the actual inventory number. I'm going to keep that by the status because it groups them nicely. And press the check mark for OK there. So now a couple of words about the count that we're going to go through. So we're going to look at inventory number 203, the second count in this list. And as you can see in the third column, I only have two active lines in there, so two balance IDs. But what I did when I created this count in M3, it's a periodic count, and I enabled one recount within M3. So what that means, what the intention is that two different users go out and count the same number of balance IDs, and then the system uses the results from the final count in the update and reporting, etc., back to M3. So the way this works in M3, if you look at this inventory count 203, is that there are actually 4 lines showing. Each of these balance IDs are repeated twice, which is then simplistically what's happening in the background in M3, that somebody or two different people go in and count the same things 2 times. Now we've simplified this quite a lot within our application. So if I tap on that count number 203, see we expand the details. We only show the 2 balance IDs that have been selected here. But you see up in the right hand corner there that we've got a recount that says yes, there is at least one recount included here. And I'll show you what that means as we go through this. Of course, for each of these I can either manually key in the values of the quantities, or I can go ahead and scan them. And I'll show you first, for the first line, how to manually input, which then is as simple as tapping in that field. I happen to know that the actual on-hand balance for this balance ID is 1181. So if I put in a little bit more here, 1195, and we press the green check mark there to the right, and you see that we get this warning kicking in based on the inventory variance parameters that we've set in M3 to say, that's rejected, it's not automatically approved. So rather than have to change this status from something to something else, we've got a simple indicator there to the right to say approve manually. So I'm just going to tap that. Now that automatically set the status, as you can see, to 2, which then means manually approved. And it just provides input to the next step where somebody in the office will take this, run variance reports, and eventually update M3 with these new quantities. Now before we go ahead and report the second line here, I'm going to go ahead and tap at the little barcode icon that you see in the very upper right hand corner there, and to just show you the alternative way of walking through this count. So if I'm not following the list, if I go back, if I'm not following the list on this screen, but rather I'm just walking around in the section of the warehouse where I know that I should be counting, then I can use this approach, and then for each of these values, item number, location, lot number, and quantity, I can either, like this, using the built-in camera on the device, or of course using a tethered Bluetooth scanner if that's what you have, and then go through, scan in each of these 4 values, press the check mark here, OK, and then the application will read through the list and see if it finds a match. It'll just bring the user to that, pre-populate the quantity, and then you can move on from there and do the same thing again. So it's just another way to execute the count. So in this case, if I show you that, see here we had second item was 1021, and it's in location A0101. So if we go up here, though, I'm going to type this in. Sorry, no, I actually forgot what it was. 1021, location A0101. We don't have a lot number for this item. And in this case, I happen to know that the balance is 1182. So I'll hit the green check mark there. See that we pre-populate the list, and the user just has to confirm. And in this case, we get the message that all the lines have been reported, because that was it. Now, if I press the X here under the invoice, the inventory number, to close that count out, then you'll see firstly that the count has moved down since we're grouping by status, and it's now ongoing, so it's really the 5th from the bottom here. If I tap on that again now to expand it, you see that seemingly it looks exactly the way that it looked when we started. But this is then the second recount. So again, the second user, or the same user for that matter, that comes in again to perform the second recount. I don't have to worry about which lines are reported or which lines are remaining. They're just going to go ahead and report, and the application actually takes care of that this is the second count that we are going through and recording. So let's close out of there, and that's what I wanted to show you as far as the inventory counting app goes. Thanks a lot for watching.